So I have a very special guest today, Craig Smith. Welcome to the show. How are you?
Hey, doing well, Amber. Thank you for having me on. I really do feel honored to be here and share, a little bit about my journey.
Yeah, and I'm really excited for you to share. And after we had briefly connected, I was just like, oh my goodness, like I want you to come on. There's a vibe that you emit that is just so, I feel like people can really like listen to and relate. So without further ado, let's talk about your journey with your healing, your health, because there is some gold for the audience to hear as to why you're on the show with me today.
I appreciate it and your thoughts and again your energy as well, and excited for the audience to explore, together, all of us. And you know, we've all got this health journey. I mean, we only get one body, right? We like to say we're the account managers of this one body, and we're going to either make deposits or withdrawals. And at a very young age, in my 20s, and I won't tell you how old I am now, but in my mid 20s, all of a sudden I woke up one morning and I couldn't bend my two middle fingers. I couldn't even make fists, and it happened so rapidly. And went to the doctor. I mean, I was kind of shocked, right? Who wouldn't be shocked?
Mhm.
Went to the doctor, and I was diagnosed with rheumatoid arthritis, which that was so mind blowing to me, Amber, because as a 25-year-old,
Yeah.
I guess I thought, if this is okay to say, I always kind of thought that was an old person's disease. Like
Yeah.
people that were like 100 got that, not people in their 20s. And that set my feet on a path of exploration, because I couldn't imagine that, one, I had it, according to what the doctor said, but how could I overcome it? How could I rid my body of it? What was out there? And I'd taken my health for granted,
Yeah.
pretty much my whole life. Just being a kid, running around, doing things, eating whatever I wanted, however I wanted. I had a fast metabolism thanks to my my genes, and I'll tell you what, so I could kind of eat what I wanted, and now here I was, and this set me on a path, as I mentioned, into the health and wellness industry for now over almost 23 years. I've been really exploring and helped bring approximately 109 different products to the market, all in search of a solution
Mhm.
and an answer. Because again, we all are seeking answers. I mean, it's really hard to create and sustain our dreams if we're stepping over our health to get
Yes.
there. And loved ones are involved, friends,
Mhm.
family, and everybody's got something going on. And I started researching and getting involved with these products and their formulas. And we're talking, vitamins, minerals, nitric oxide. Some of your audience really understand the power of nitric oxide. You had a Nobel Prize. Korean red ginseng and what it could do. And I really went down the rabbit hole and looking at so many things to see if I could find a solution just to feel better, feel young, feel alive.
Mhm. Yeah, yeah. And that's the thing, right? Is like when we have something happen, it's either a motivator to help us like start digging and exploring and trying things and making changes. And some people just accept a diagnosis and for whatever the reason and decline or tolerate the suffering. I think it's so important, to just hear this beginning of your story to remind everybody, like dig, like advocate for yourself and or get help because there's so much available to help us. So when you are going on this journey, you're trying all these different things, like when did you start to find relief or when did it get to this point where you're able to find things that were benefiting your body?
Right. Great point. See, different supplements helped me in different ways, whether it was
Right.
nitric oxide for my heart or some Korean red ginseng patches that I found that were really helping alleviating some of the inflammation.
Mm-hmm.
But I was looking for I don't know. I mean, we want to talk about the Holy Grail, right? Where everybody's been looking for it,
Right.
the Holy Grail of health, and it's probably been labeled so many times. Okay, this is the Holy Grail. No, this is the Holy Grail. And what was happening is I slowly started to get better. And to be really candid, I'm not sure why. The doctor just said, Craig, keep off excess weight uh, and exercise. And generally, when you can't do this, I mean, you try to
Hmm.
even imagine holding on to weights. But I
Yeah.
got to a point, my body, tried to be healthy, try to eat healthier. But all of that led to this place where I was just months and months ago, where I was finally at the gym and I'm working out. I'm able to squeeze my hands finally to get around weights. I like to go to the gym. I like to live.
Hmm.
I don't know, maybe the endorphins, or maybe it just makes me feel younger. And I probably don't look like I go to the gym, but I'm trying. And but I'm squeezing the weights. And here was the challenge. And I know many in your audience are probably going to yell at their phones right now or their screens, because every night I'd come home, and I'm sure there's people that can relate to this. You're tired, and I'm sitting there, and the only thing that I could find relief as I sat on the couch, my wife would look over at me, and I was literally rubbing every knuckle on every finger in my hands and every just main joint. And so then I would go to the cabinet, and the only thing that was giving me relief for these years became ibuprofen,
Hmm.
and sometimes 200,
Hmm.
400, 600, 800 milligrams, sometimes up to 3 times a day. And I know people are saying, oh, Craig, that is so toxic. And it was during this period of my life that I came across something in my travels, in my journey, in my professional career, being associated with products, that, I mean, all I can say when I talked about, right, we're the account managers of our bodies, and we're making either
Hmm.
deposits or withdrawals. It's important what we put in our bodies, and I believe I found the best deposit I know of, and I believe it represents a new age in, how do I say it, biological optimization,
Hmm.
anti-aging, performance, and overall health. I discovered, essential for me, and it's been discovered for a long time. I found out, it's like one of those things. Ta-da! I found it. Well, it's not, obviously I didn't find anything. I did, I discovered, came across, and so grateful for some beautiful minds uh, that have been understanding it since the mid 1600s at least. And I didn't even realize, as I went and started piecing all of these clues together. They say life leaves clues,
Hmm.
right? And so I started following these breadcrumbs and connecting the dots, and it all led to Japan and what they had been discovering, including a scientist whose daughter had ALS at
Hmm.
5 years old and was told that she was going to die. And he was gathering minds in Japan. So brilliant, their engineering. I think there's a reason why Toyota. I've got a Toyota truck sitting in my driveway that's pushing 200,000 miles, and the only thing I've replaced on it are the tires and the battery.
That's amazing.
At 200,000 miles, so
Yes.
they get it, the engineering of it. But these clues all started, coming together, and that's why I believe, because of what I felt in discovering molecular hydrogen. And I'm telling you, Amber, I say it almost with a reverence because of what it's done just for me. And I know your audience, they've all got their story.
Hmm.
But I started um, with molecular hydrogen therapy, and within 2 weeks of starting molecular hydrogen therapy, I have not taken a single ibuprofen.
Amazing.
And my joints, I'm at the gym and my joints, here I am doing this like I'm in my 20s.
Mm-hmm.
I just talking about it, it kind of is, it's overwhelming just because when you can find something after I'd been searching, I have tried vitamin after
Mm-hmm.
vitamin because, right, I mean, you know, the original folks on this planet, I think they just had it figured out,
Mm-hmm.
right? I mean, they had the original fast food. They would just go up to the trees, pick it,
Yeah.
eat it,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And now look at our fast food,
Oh
right?
gosh, it's a
And yet,
mess.
right? I mean, they understood that foods, that the color meant something,
Yep.
the smell meant something.
Yep.
You know, as it looked on their plate, so to speak, they
Mm-hmm.
got it. I mean, in fact, they call it folk wisdom if you
Mm-hmm.
want, but think about
Yes.
it. You cut a carrot in half and look at it, and it looks like an eye.
Yes.
And Cal Berkeley does a study and says carrots are good for the eyes. I
Yeah.
mean, you take a tomato, cut it in half, four chambers,
Yeah.
just like a heart.
Yeah.
How about a walnut? Crack it open, just like a brain, right? We call it signature foods, right? Sign of nature, just
Yes.
like our signature, you know. And what they really understood was water.
Mm-hmm.
They understood the universe,
Yep.
stars. And when I was talking about these clues, I started doing all my own research to become an expert, realizing that hydrogen makes up 75% of the stars,
Mm-hmm.
um, our sun that gives life to the planet, um, our planet, our bodies. And so the question that just kept hitting me over the head was, maybe with all of these clues, maybe we don't need less. Maybe we need more
Mm-hmm.
hydrogen in our lives. I mean, back to eighth grade science, right? If you remember back to eighth grade science, on the
Yes.
periodic table of elements,
Yes.
right in the upper left corner, I'd love any in your audience to go Google it. The very first element is hydrogen. It's the lightest, it's the smallest, it's odorless, it's tasteless,
Mm-hmm.
colorless. And I've realized because of the nature of hydrogen, it can go where no blueberry has ever gone before.
That needs to be like on a bumper sticker or something. That's great. Yeah, yeah, totally. Makes sense.
And so the question I started asking after my story, and I started researching and looking into other stories, in fact, found over now we're going on 1,800 peer-reviewed scientific articles in every major journal, university, study, over 1,800 studies on 170. I was excited about my joints. Okay. I
Yes.
was excited about this. No more ibuprofen
Yeah.
ingested into my body. But I realized there's been studies on over 170 different disease models. I mean, these these clues, they come from ancient wisdom, but ancient stories as well.
Mm-hmm.
In fact, I was in France for a couple of years, and there was a big deal. They said, man, Craig, while you're there, you've got to go to the south of France. It's a little tiny town about 500 miles south of Paris called Lourdes, France. And in the mid 1800s, there was a story of a vision, an appearance of Mary to a young girl, and bless the waters. And
Mm-hmm.
since then, I went down there. I had no idea about this story. And I go down there, and there's people lined up near this grotto, kind of coming out of the earth and getting the water. And have reported, just again, Google it, but these locations are around the planet.
Mm-hmm.
And when the clues started coming together, the Japanese went and studied the waters in Lourdes, France, and realized one thing, because people were claiming incredible healing results in a very short period of time. We're not talking years, we're talking weeks, sometimes days.
Mm-hmm.
They realized that the water was highly infused and saturated with hydrogen.
Wow.
Again, 75% of the mass of the universe, our sun, our stars, our body, the planet, maybe again, going back to the clues.
Yeah. Well, I really believe that Earth was equipped with everything humanity needed, right?
Wow.
Back in those ancient times. We didn't
Wow.
look at how much different things were. Why is the world so unwell now? Right? We've gone so far away from our roots in many different ways. And so this is our reminder that the earth provides, and there's so much healing available that the earth wants to give us, but we haven't been educated, right?
And we know, I don't want to get all conspiracy theory or
You can say whatever you want.
right? You know what? But I believe there are groups of people, individuals, organizations that want to control
Of course.
health, because it's all about the dollar.
Yep.
And if we as people, individuals, discover and find and create and discover, again, just like you said, what Earth is already providing in natural forms, whether it's out of the rainforest,
Mm-hmm.
out of some crushed up leaf,
Mm-hmm.
right? Or ways to access, again, substances like
Yeah.
hydrogen. Well, boy, we better shut that down.
Yep.
Man, we don't want anybody to know it, because if we can't control it, then we can't profit
Yeah.
from it.
Exactly. And that's, oh gosh, I talk about that all the time. I mean, there's certain spices. I heard they're trying to ban cinnamon in New Zealand. They're trying to ban homeopathy in Canada. Like, it's so blatantly obvious, like, that it's all about the money, right? So this is why this education and getting this education out is so important, that again, there's so much opportunity for us to explore alternative methods that are very potent and powerful. And the water, like, there's many things that can help us heal, but we're not taught that. There's no commercial on TV going, oh, if you increase the amount of hydrogen in your water, or however you ingest it,
right,
it can help lower your inflammation or get rid of free radical damage. No, like, what are the commercials? Fruit roll-ups, Pop-Tarts, medication, take the Advil, Robaxacet. Like, it's Downy in your sheets. Like, it's all the wrong things.
and then all of the warnings after, right?
Yes.
This may cause you to bloat, to die, to
Yes,
and
it's
you know,
sad.
like you said, I mean, our kids these days,
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I know I grew up running around like a crazy kid, but we had the little ants on a log, with
Yes.
we had our little celery, my mom, with the peanut
Yes.
butter and the raisins. But I'm telling you what, kids today think they are health nuts if it says 10% juice on their candy. What are
Mm-hmm.
they getting? Fruit Loops, Apple Jacks, Crunch Berries.
Yeah.
I mean, things that mimic fruit, mimic nature.
Yeah.
And again, we have come so far, and yet the answers, I believe, they're right here.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
They're right here. And we're talking studies, Amber,
Yes.
regarding cancer, diabetes, cardiovascular health, digestive issues, essentially every organ and system in the body. Why? Because of the nature of hydrogen. It
Mm-hmm.
is so small, it can cross the blood-brain barrier. It can go right to the cell. I mean, literally, it can penetrate muscle, bone, bone marrow, you name it. It can go, again, like I said. I mean, a blueberry is like getting a Mack truck into my body compared
Right.
to a molecule of hydrogen. And who knew?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, but
Yeah.
it's kind of like, taking the red pill, right? You come out of the matrix
Oh gosh.
and you're like, it's right here, folks.
Yeah.
We should have a clue. What makes up 75% of our sun? that gives
Yeah.
life. Oh, it's just hydrogen. Oh, that's nice.
Yeah. Not a big deal. Moving on with my day, right? Like, yeah.
Right. Right.
Yeah. I hear you. So, are we depleted in hydrogen? Like, are we deficient? And this is one of the things that increases our chances for like autoimmune inflammation, gut issues, etc. Or is it that we're not deficient and that this, like ingesting or taking in hydrogen, and you can talk about that right away, but is
Sure.
it that the more is what's helping, or is it that we're depleted and so we're replenishing that?
Yeah. Our bodies naturally make hydrogen.
Yeah.
The the challenge is it's all of the free radical damage around us caused by pollutions,
Mm-hmm.
pesticides, the foods we eat, you name it. And almost everybody, it seems, is up to speed to a degree about free radicals, oxidation. Usually, I think oxidation when I'm driving by, just going on a road trip, and I see some old junker car sitting out in a field and it's just rusting.
Yeah.
It's oxidizing.
Yeah.
And that's what's happening from the inside out to every human being on the planet. They're oxidizing. It's because they're not getting enough hydrogen. And you can't eat enough blueberries. You,
Right.
you just can't. You need something. Our bodies need something to, if you will, how do I say, balance the scales,
Mm-hmm.
right? Overcome this free radical damage in a powerful, potent, and just really, really powerful way. And that's exactly what hydrogen does. It just goes in. I don't want to use I don't know, kind of like just an intuitive.
Mm-hmm.
It goes where if whatever is going on in amber,
Mm-hmm.
it figures out how to repair amber.
Yeah.
Whatever it did, and I'm not a scientist, I'm not a medical doctor. We've got some great friends. If you ever want to talk with them or have them on the show, some great naturopathic doctor friends of mine that are very passionate about the subject as well. But they can get into all the science. I can discuss it a little bit. But what makes sense to me is I don't know how it knew to come in and completely repair my joints.
Mm-hmm.
I have not changed my workouts. I haven't changed anything,
Mm-hmm.
just ingesting hydrogen. I don't know how it's intuitive enough, but
It
you
is
know,
though.
it is though, right?
Yep.
Because the body recognizes it. We
Yes.
take all these outside chemicals, bring them into our body. Our body has no clue what to do with them. So what does it do? It pushes it down into our big toe or in some weird place in our
Yeah.
body. It starts growing some growth and they start to collect there
Yeah.
versus I kind of like the analogy. See, because hydrogen is such a unique structure, it's H2. It's got this loose or kind of free bond with it. So what happens is it can go in and grab on to a free radical, if you will, with that free
Mm-hmm.
electron. See, water, H2O, right? The
Mm-hmm.
life-giving element, all we're doing is separating that. We're separating the oxygen and the hydrogen because when they're together, it's kind of like they're dating, right? They're together at the party. And so it can't go grab a free radical because it's already paired.
Right.
It's already got a date.
Yeah.
But molecular hydrogen, think about it, is the best single person in the room. And it doesn't just want to talk to one person. It goes and talks to everybody in the room, grabs that free electron and says, "You're done. You're out. Get out." And free and heal the body. And pretty soon, and it's amazing because that molecule of hydrogen is so small and light that it simply evaporates once the electron has been donated
Wow.
harmlessly.
Yeah.
So it doesn't create any cytotoxic effects. It just does its thing. Hey, I got my date now.
Yeah.
Gets rid of it and then evaporates. You can't overdose on hydrogen.
Yeah.
It's there are no studied adverse effects for hydrogen. You can't overdose. You can't have too much,
Mhm.
and it fights disease and has zero negative side effects.
Yeah. Well, of course it does, because it's from nature, and
Right.
nature and our bodies are so intuitive together and so connected. And I don't think we even know like 5% of the connections. Like we have been so denied of the truth about the intuitive nature of earth, of things like hydrogen, food, like natural medicine from the earth and our bodies. And so this just totally makes sense to me, that it would be so intuitive, because this is how it's always been meant to be.
Right. The body just knows what to do with it.
Yes.
And it says, welcome. And it opens the door wide. All you've got to do, like I said, the body does the miracle.
Mm-hmm.
Right? I mean, it does. We're not saying this is curing, but the body does the incredible miracle. Again, as I said, all it needs is the proper raw materials.
Mm-hmm.
And I personally believe hydrogen, after my experience, my loved ones' experiences, the experiences I'd be happy to kind of anecdotally share, it is the best single deposit that and raw material that I know of on the planet, because it again, as you mentioned, is so intuitive.
Mm-hmm.
It's what the planet's made of. It's like if you had the source of healing, and some are even asking, is the source of all disease repair finally here? Have we discovered that holy grail?
Mm-hmm.
And part of my personal mission now, because of how I feel, is to shout it from the rooftops.
Yeah. Of course, which is great. People need to be educated. People do need to know that this kind of thing exists, right? To end, potentially help improve their symptoms, gain relief from symptoms and suffering that is having a significant impact on their quality of life, right? Because it is significant. Like when you can't even close your hands, it
Exactly.
impacts your quality of life significantly.
Yeah, because what it does, because it gets rid of that free radical damage and oxidation, really, which is a source of hardcore inflammation.
Yes.
And inflammation is essentially the genesis of almost every disease. And so,
Mm-hmm.
therefore, it goes in, supports the body's immune system. It's a powerful anti-inflammatory, helps athletes recover so quickly, protects the muscles, helps the joints. I'm walking proof of that.
Yeah.
Can speed up sports related recovery, as I mentioned. Uh, we're talking cell modulation, neuroprotective. I've got a story about that. Amazing. Metabolic conditions. It boosts our mitochondria, the ATP production for
Mm-hmm.
energy. So many people report feeling like this is a non-caffeinated energy boost immediately.
Wow.
Protects against DNA damage, against cancer, helps protect organs. Uh, I mean, I like to say the body doesn't know its chronological age, it only acts
Mm-hmm.
its biological age.
Mm-hmm.
So let's go take care of this one biological gift we have.
Yeah, I agree. I agree 100%. So, do you want to share a couple of these? You just mentioned a story. It sounded like maybe to do
Oh,
with the brain or
sure.
neurological. Why don't you share that? I'm just intrigued because my mom had multiple sclerosis and she passed away from it a couple of years ago, and
Sorry.
just horrible illness to watch people be debilitated to, and having known something like this, to be able to, who knows if it could have improved her quality of life or her symptoms or whatever, right? Like, and my father actually, was diagnosed with rheumatoid arthritis in his 20s and ankylosing spondylitis at 18. And he couldn't
Wow.
even walk or drive for a period of time. And at the time, all they had to offer was either, well, you're going to be in a wheelchair for the rest of your life, or you can try these radiation treatments. And obviously at 18, he was very desperate to gained some kind of relief and did these radiation treatments, and they did work, and it's been in remission ever since. But there's always just in the back of his head this thought of like, oh my gosh, like I hope this never flares up again, right? And I know he talks sometimes about his hands with the rheumatoid arthritis, so I can fully relate to having two parents that have autoimmune conditions. And
Yep.
we know inflammation is a huge part, and this free radical damage fuels this inflammation. And I had inflammation when I was binge eating, and it fueled all kinds of issues as well. So it's something that I feel everyone has some level of inflammation,
Oh, absolutely.
unless you're living out in a little like village disconnected from like mainstream society, and you don't have fast food and you're living off the land. You know what I mean? Like I feel like they probably don't really have much inflammation, and disease is a lot lower because they're not exposed to all the chemicals and the toxins and the poisons in our food and our water and our skincare and everything, right? So it just goes
Atmosphere.
to
Yeah.
show
Yeah.
you like how our environment in what I like to call these Five Eye countries, Canada, the United States, Europe, Australia, New Zealand, like how we've been so infiltrated with all this junk,
Yeah.
essentially,
Absolutely.
right?
And it's not going to get better. So we've got to get better. We've got
Yes.
to get better. To me, this is a quasi revolution.
Yeah.
We've got to take responsibility.
Yeah.
No more victim mentality. We're going to say, no, we're in charge. We're going to heal
Mhm.
ourselves, so to speak. Let the body do the miracle, but we've got to figure out what to give it. You
Yeah.
mentioned the story. The number one, uh, the number one thing that I hear all the time as people are enjoying hydrogen is they say they crave it. It's the word that comes up over and over
Wow.
and over. I can't explain it. Every night before I go to bed, I prepare hydrogen so it's ready for me in the morning. And from the minute I get up, that's the first thing I go to on an empty stomach. I pour at least 16 ounces of hydrogen, pure hydrogen infused water. And it's been powerful. In fact, an amazing lady, these are the kind of stories that you want emailed, emailed me
Hmm.
and said, Craig, I'm sending you pictures and you can use this story. Tell everyone. And her mom's name is Judy. She's 82 years old. Been in assisted living, dealing with Alzheimer's,
Mm.
effects, neurodegeneration,
Yeah.
uh, and she's been in care since like 2014.
Wow.
And all this sweet daughter did is she would go visit her mom week after week. She got her hydrogen, started not only having her drink it, but inhale it
Mm.
through a cannula,
Hmm.
kind of like an oxygen.
Yeah.
She would just breathe it and drink it. And she sent pictures from day 1 to day 17. And within 17 days, she went. I mean, she's such a sweet lady. And she's just sitting there like
It's sad.
a shell. And
Yeah.
they sit there like a shell
All day.
all day. And I invite any of your audience to go see these pictures, and maybe I'll send them to you.
Sure.
She went from just the shell to the brightest smile, light in her eyes, and her daughter said she could pick up a fork, she could eat with it.
Wow.
She stood up out of her wheelchair, and I'm not making this up. This is a sweet daughter just saying, use the story, because again, and I get excited, and I
Yeah,
have to
of
slow down
course.
sometimes because she's getting out of her wheelchair, she's talking more, and she said, if this is all my mom gets, I am so grateful.
Hmm.
She says, please use the pictures, use the story, tell everyone.
Hmm.
And we are.
Yeah.
And I'm going to tell everyone,
Good.
because as they say, if it is to be, it's up to me. So I
Yeah.
uh I'm just telling everybody. And how about if I could tell you just another quick one?
Of
We've got
course.
we've got people with skin issues
Yeah.
that are in the audience. I mean, psoriasis, you name it, from
Hmm.
growths that are appearing on their skin,
Mm.
age spots. But we had a wonderful man. He's a professional plumber by trade. I mean, his whole adult life, he's been a plumber. So he's been exposed to glues and
Yeah.
other caustic substances. Again, all of this horrific inflammation, damage.
Yeah.
He showed his hands, and again, I'll send you the pictures. It, my wife had to turn her head away. His hands looked that bad. I mean, you would never want this man giving you a back rub. In fact, he even said he couldn't touch his children's faces because he was worried he was going to snag their faces and their skin with the way his hands were. Just the only way I can describe it is he looked like what I think a leper would look like. His hands. And in 3 weeks, his hands transformed from absolute just distress to just faint little lines. It had completely transformed his skin.
Wow.
I've got a naturopathic doctor, Dr. Sunny. She had a growth right in her hairline that was getting bigger and bigger, and she went and had it looked at, photographed, and within, I think, less than 2 months of just drinking the hydrogen water, she pulled her hair back and started noticing it was shrinking. And all of a sudden now it's completely gone.
Wow.
I've had people tell me stories about being in wheelchairs. They couldn't even push the button on the remote. And now they're up doing cooking shows.
Wow.
For their YouTube audience. I've got a sweet lady who said, my doctor diagnosed me as diabetic, then pre-diabetic, then pre-diabetic, and then, quote, no diabetic.
Wow.
People are sleeping better, more vivid dreams. I had a cool guy we talked to in Canada the other day. As a matter of fact, he says, Craig, I do not know what's going on, but my wife is telling me to cut my fingernails and my hair. They are growing like again, it's this new age of biological optimization, anti-aging. I just feel like a clock is finally being reversed.
Yeah. Well, I mean, everyone has their analogies of the human being, but I've heard like a long time ago, we lived for a lot longer than 100 years or 80 years. And again, off the land and the earth and knowing, right, having this intuitive connection with our bodies and nature. So it doesn't surprise me the benefits of when we go back to basics and go back to nature and access these things that are modalities that are helping us heal. And thank you for sharing these stories. It's incredible. And people need to hear this, because something I always say in the podcast is your body's always trying to heal. It's just that we're getting in the way. All this stuff out in the world is getting in the way. And like, we're truly like, look at it. You cut your finger and it heals, right? There's the proof. Exactly. Right? Your body is a miracle, but then we get conditioned to hate our bodies and we treat our bodies like garbage cans. And right? Like you with the fast metabolism, you don't even think anything of it, but then it starts catching up with you. Right. And so this is why this is so important, because I truly believe the body will give us certain challenges to go through in hopes that we will go, okay, like it's time for me to learn. It's time for me to have an open mind. It's time for me to do some deeper healing, because as we do, we learn so much about our bodies. We find the things that are going to help us heal. And then it's a miracle for us, but then hopefully we start sharing it with the world. And then it's a miracle for the world because other people find it and start utilizing it as well, whether it's, this hydrogen or my services or whatever it is, right? Like this is the key, is we don't just hold back, because there are people who are going to miss out if you're not sharing these stories. So I really appreciate you. And we'll definitely have to get some of these stories, photos, videos, and we'll link them in the show notes. So you guys can go and watch and read and like really take some time, like looking at this, if this is really something that's speaking to you and you're really intrigued, because as soon as, we started talking, like my curiosity was just so piqued, and it just makes sense, like this intuitive nature in our bodies. So it doesn't surprise me, the healing and the miracles that are happening for people, because this is the intuitive connection between nature and the body. So,
amen.
Yeah.
I just, to a point you made, if I wouldn't have had rheumatoid arthritis in my 20s, it wouldn't have put me on the path of health and exploration and product and supplementation, and brought me to, Lourdes, France. And I mean, the fact that I've been to Lourdes, France, completely unassociated right?
Yeah.
And all of a sudden this clue, and then a clue, and then a clue, and it starts all connecting. Just like I believe, there's no real randomness, right? I think we're put
No.
in divine orbits, if you will,
Yes.
with each other.
I
And
agree.
we connect with people that might seem random at first, and then all of a sudden, wait a minute, I needed to hear that story right now. I had no idea this was even possible.
Hmm.
And this technology has been in Japan. It's the gold standard in their hospitals, in their clinics. In fact, they do hydrogen therapy in their ambulances. I always thought of, watching TV, it's always put the oxygen on them.
Yeah.
How about put the hydrogen on them?
Yeah.
Hydrogen gas.
Hmm.
And so and it's interesting. It's just so interesting, and there's so many parallels, and even potential spiritual parallels that we
Hmm.
pull with hydrogen. But it has just become so powerful in my life, my friends' lives, and those that I'm sharing it with, and the stories. Another sweet lady I just talked to 3 days ago. Uh, Left side, and she believes it's because of her phone. She's always holding the phone up to her left side. She says, I have
Mm.
a daily headache every single day, and I believe it's because of my cell phone. Again, we could get into
The
EMF.
EMFs.
We
Yeah.
could get into all of that, right?
Hmm.
Guess what? No more headaches.
Not surprised. Yeah.
But again, I'm not that scientist guy. I can conjecture, but all I know is when the body recognizes something so powerful and so pure and so clean, it just goes and does what it needs to
Hmm.
do. It does the
Hmm.
miracle.
Yeah. Yeah. And so what you're primarily talking about that you're doing, and I think what the people that are finding you are doing is you're adding hydrogen to water for the most part, it sounds like, and then some are doing it through breathing it in.
Correct. And
Yeah.
yeah, I've come across, and I'm just so again how paths cross, and been associated with this gold standard machine out of Japan that a friend introduced me to. And it's fun. Again, you talk about how life comes back
Oh
together.
yeah.
There's Guess what the name of this thing is? It's the Lourdes Hydrofix. They named it after Lourdes, France,
Wow.
because of the healing miracles that have been reported there since, the 1800s, 1600s. And all of a sudden I heard the name, and then I started researching, because that's the key. Because when a story comes out like this, I'll just say, sadly, and we just know this is the way it is. A lot of pretenders come out of the weeds,
Yes. Always.
because there's always going to be charlatans. There's always going to be
Hmm.
people that want to uh, give you a plastic case and call it a cell phone, right? Or
Hmm.
hand you a steering wheel and a tire and say that it's a car or a Toyota, when
Yeah.
it's going to break down before you get out of the lot. And
Yeah.
so I did a lot, and have continued to do a lot of research on this standard machine, only available in Japan up until now. And now it's available almost globally.
Amazing.
And it's called the Lord's Hydrofix. And in my research, there are some real key questions. I mean, we've always heard, maybe in real estate, it's location, 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 right? When it comes to a hydrogen creator,
Hmm.
generator, producer, whatever you want to call it, it's quality, quality, quality. Why? Because all we want this machine to do is do one thing, and that's make pure hydrogen.
Hmm.
Because I'm going to be ingesting it, I'm going to be breathing it. My wife's going to be ingesting it, breathing it. My grandparents, my parents, my children, my pets. And some
Hmm.
people say, are you kidding me? People are giving their pets every single
Why
morning
not?
hydrogen water. Why not? We love them. We love our
Yes.
pets, right?
Yes.
And there's some really important questions people should be asking about the type of device that they're looking for. And as far as I know, the Lord's Hydrofix is also the only device that allows you to both drink as much as you want. It's all you can drink, but also because of the design out of this incredible Japanese technology, they wanted to make sure that you could just make one change, switch out a lid, add a cannula, and immediately start
Wow.
breathing. So
Great.
I've got people, they start their day, since we do this hybrid work kind of thing, they sit at their desks again with all of their computer screens, their cell phones,
Yeah.
you know what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
And so they sit there and breathe the hydrogen for 30, 60, 90 minutes. And then when they're done, they've got a 1.5 liter pitcher and start pouring it and drinking all day.
Yeah.
It's super cool.
And easy,
Easy,
right? It's
accessible.
yeah,
It's
which is
right
the
on your
key.
counter, about the size of a coffee maker.
Not bad at all.
Yeah, well, the Japanese, they wanted to make it available for every household.
Which is the key. It needs to be accessible and easy to store, put out.
Yeah, you don't have to hook it up to a water source. You don't need
That's nice.
a screwdriver. You don't need to have some big machine or different type. People say, well, what kind of, just your clean water. You provide the clean water, it does the rest.
Yeah.
And it does it better than anything I've ever found. Of course, because, well, I'm living proof.
Yeah. Yeah, no, it totally makes sense. And I love that it's just so easy to distribute it and ingest it or breathe it in. I think that easy is always a nice way to step into something. And then when you start seeing the results, it just inspires you to want to continue with that. And then you start eating better, you start sleeping better, you start taking better care of it. Like, right, as things catch on, you're like, oh my gosh, I want to keep going. Why would I want to go back to the way I was? Like that. Why, right?
You talked about binge eating for just a second, right? And I think there's several of us that have been through those stages in life, right? Whenever that season was in life. And we are getting reports now that what it's doing is curbing cravings, because it's taking care of the inflammation. It's it's taking care of these responses that trigger the body to eat poorly, because it's getting exactly what it needs to repair. So it goes back to this level of homeostasis. And all of a sudden I'm not craving. And I'm not saying, I'm not a fanatic, right? Sometimes people like to say, if God made it, eat it. If man made it, eat it alone, eat it, leave it alone, or eat it in moderation, right? But I'm saying it's amazing what it's doing to kill cravings, and therefore people are losing weight. It's, again, by drinking and breathing, all you want.
Yeah, and that's nice that like it's all you want. There's no overdoing it, right?
No.
Yeah. So this technology, I'm so glad that it's coming out and it's coming out to the rest of the world. This is so important that people have access to this to help us heal. And like we talked about earlier, obviously there's a lot of big systems that don't necessarily want that, hence why you're not seeing it plastered all over the television and the YouTube shows that you're watching. So this is how this gets out there, these conversations, these podcasts, these channels where you can come and share this story. So is there anything people should know about this machine, or like how can they find it if they want to like learn more about it or purchase it potentially?
Absolutely. I think there's a few questions they want to ask if they're doing their research, right? As I said, there's a lot of pretenders. There's some that make claims about a little bottle. I mean, I've seen it all. I've looked at it all. And when it comes down, again, as I mentioned, it comes down to quality, quality, quality. And you want to make sure that whatever you do, whether you go with the Lord's Hydrofix or not, that whatever's happening, it's called separate chamber electrolysis. You do not want to directly electrolyze the water. 99% of any device that I've even looked at that have been coming out, throwing them up on Amazon for $99, they are directly electrolyzing the water, meaning that chemical reaction, that pulling apart of electrolysis to separate, to get your hydrogen, is happening inside your water. I don't want anything happening inside my clean water.
Hmm.
This machine, because of the engineering and the brilliant minds in Japan and about 5 other companies that I can't mention that they partnered with together, happens all underneath at a completely separate place than your water. And then, because of this special membrane, it only allows hydrogen ions to go through,
Hmm.
only. And it doesn't allow metals. It doesn't
Good.
allow chlorine. It doesn't allow ozone. I don't want anything else in my
Yeah.
water. I provide the clean water. All I want in there is completely infused, pure hydrogen. And the metals they use are pure. They're not plated. They're not colloidal.
Hmm.
It is just so brilliant. And they're even able to use a greener initiative because they figured out how to use less electricity to create more hydrogen. And in the case of the Lord's Hydrofix, the way the expanded metal technology works, what they figured out, they've been able to, for the first time in history, make structured hydrogen, which means, I know this might sound like a lot, but
No.
we call it super nanobubbles that are so fine. You'll see it when you turn on your machine for the first time and the little blue lights are glowing, and the blue lights are just so that you can see and illuminate. So the
Right.
hydrogen, and you watch those bubbles come up for the first time in your water. I still remember, I looked at my wife, I'm like, here we go. I pushed the power button. That was it. I filled it up, put the lid on, hit the power button, and in 30 minutes, if you fill it up halfway, it'll be ready in 10 minutes. If you fill it up to the 1.5 liters, it's done in 30. And I push the button and you see the hydrogen infusing in the water. We each poured a glass and it was so smooth. It was so clean, so clear.
Hmm.
And then within 2 weeks, I'm not taking ibuprofen anymore.
Hmm. Yeah.
Yeah,
Miracles.
I would definitely ask it. Yeah, you can find it to learn more. There's tons of research. You can click the research page. You can click success stories. I mentioned some of them, but you just go to holyhydrogen.com. And for some of you that are laughing at the name, it sounds like something Robin would say
Love
to
it.
Batman. Holy hydrogen, Batman. You take there's some meaning behind it. You take the H of holy and hydrogen, stack them on top of each other. It's two H's, or H2, which is molecular hydrogen, and
Love it.
holy is a synonym for pure hydrogen.
Mhm.
Holyhydrogen.com.
Yes, and I'll make sure that we have like links to the holyhydrogen.com, details about the machine. Like I said, miracle stories, things like that. I really want people to watch and absorb if you're feeling called and intrigued by this, because
Sure.
the bodies are depleted and we need some support. So, is there anything else you would like to share with the audience? Anything we've missed? I feel like you've done such a great job of sharing and
Oh,
explaining
you're
and
sweet.
educating.
Oh, I'm just happy to be here. I would invite everybody to go do your own research. Go
Yes,
check out the
always.
research. We've got a tab to research, 1,700 studies that you can go click on and click on and click on. Go down the rabbit hole.
Hmm.
Again, we're talking over 170 different disease models. Almost everything I've possibly heard of is being helped. I don't want to say cured because we got to be careful with
Yes.
all and everything what we say. But I'll tell you what, please just go do your own research, check it out.
Yeah.
It's a lot of fun. So
Yeah.
exciting.
Yes. Well, like I said, we'll make sure we'll have all the details in the show notes so people can go and read and learn and research. And if they want to purchase the machine, I'm assuming they can also go to holyhydrogen.com and do so there too.
Yeah, absolutely. Holyhydrogen.com. You can just purchase, and it's an investment.
Of course,
Yeah, it's
healing
an
is.
investment. Yeah, I mean, healing is, and they always say uh, that you're gonna pay for sickness or you're gonna pay for health, but either way, you're gonna pay. And what I love is this is a one-time purchase, all you can drink and all you can breathe.
Mhm. Yeah. Well
And
worth it.
yeah,
It's changing your life. It's improving your quality of life. I'm always talking about on the podcast, like it is an investment. If it's you're going to have to invest if you really want to see change, right? And it's life changing, and it's a small investment compared to the improvements in the quality of life changing.
oh, when I have a young lady look at me and say, Craig, I've been in big pharma for 20 years. She almost kind of said that reluctantly. She said, she's no longer in big pharma. And she said, I've been dealing with IBS my entire adult life. And she just looked at me and she said, Craig, my IBS is gone.
Yep.
I don't know about you, and I don't want to be weird or gross, but not being able to go to the bathroom or going to the
Not
bathroom
good.
too much, it's one
Yeah.
way or the other with it's not overrated. And the fact
No.
that it's helping people like this, I couldn't be more excited. And like I said, I'm gonna just keep shouting it from the rooftops. And
Please do.
we do have payment plans just in case.
Great.
We have
Yeah,
payment
that's great.
available too. Yeah.
Awesome. Yeah. So everything will be available for people to check out, but it's just been such a pleasure to have you on the show today. And thank you for sharing your passion. I think people can just feel it in your voice and your energy, how much love there is behind this and how valuable this could be for you if it feels resonant. So I'm really excited that we got to have this conversation today. And thank you for going on this journey and committing to your healing and finding something that has helped you and a lot of other people. I really appreciate it.
Hey, thank you, Amber. It's been a privilege. Thank you so much.